With ground skirmishes along the border increasing, U.S. planes shoot up an Iraqi tank column. Iraq says a captured pilot was killed in the bombing of Baghdad. And Allied planes fly 2,600 missions in the last 24 hours. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting tonight with a special war summary edition. Good evening. Iraq said today one of its human shield captives has been killed. It said he died when Allied bombs hit a government building in Baghdad. The prisoner was not identified. U.S. officials said they could not confirm the death. But President Bush had his spokesman condemn Iraq's treatment of prisoners, and the State Department called in Iraq's top diplomat in Washington to raise concern about POWs, as well as 4 CBS newsmen missing presumably in Kuwait. At the Pentagon, U.S. military officials tonight talked up the largest hit yet on Iraqi ground forces. Allied airstrikes are said to have wiped out a troop and tank convoy. David Martin has more about this. David?
Dan, the standoff along the border intensified today as Iraqi units apparently tried to retaliate for the continuous bombing and artillery fire they've been under. Officials here have received a preliminary report, not yet confirmed, that one Iraqi unit actually crossed into Saudi Arabia and was engaged by U.S. Marines. A press pool reports that Allied warplanes caught an Iraqi convoy moving across the desert under cover of darkness and destroyed 24 tanks, armored personnel carriers, and supply vehicles. Over the last 24 hours, the Allies flew 2,600 missions, one of the busiest days in the air since the war began. Many of those strikes were against Republican Guards positions in northern Kuwait. The Secretary of Defense believes these strikes are working.
There is evidence of significant damage, a large number of secondary explosions, for example, at ammunition dumps that support Guard divisions.
We had 2 types of ordnance on our flight today, so some people were getting rid of the personnel and other people were making hard kills on the tanks with heavier bombs.
Slowly but surely, the Iraqi army in Kuwait is being cut off.
The ability of the Iraqis to reinforce that part of their armed forces has been severely degraded by our attacks on his main supply routes, the bridges, the roads, the highways.
British tornadoes are reporting success in knocking out Iraqi fuel dumps.
There were some quite spectacular explosions after the aeroplanes went in. So there's every evidence and every hope that this systematic destruction is going extremely well.
American pilots hit an oil refinery.
Good weather today facilitated our acquiring the targets, obviously, and the weapons worked perfectly. Had no problem finding the target, and ordnance worked exactly as advertised.
While Allied planes pound their targets, Iraq's Air Force continues to flee to airfields in Iran.
There were some more en route this morning. 90 was the best number I had as of about 10 o'clock.
Secretary Cheney thinks the pilots are acting on orders from Saddam.
I think that it's a major sign of weakness in the Iraqi position. I think my guess is that he's trying to protect the aircraft by getting them out of harm's way.
According to Cheney's analysis, Saddam is trying to save his Air Force for when the war is over. If that's correct, then it offers at least the hope that he may also try to save his army before it too is destroyed, either by Allied bombing or by a ground offensive. Dan?
David Martin, thanks. Refugees fleeing Iraq today told of widespread death and destruction from U.S. bombing raids. Iraq said one of the pilots it captured was killed in a raid on Baghdad. Correspondent Richard Threlkeld in Jordan has our report.
How were you shot down? I don't know.
There are 7 Americans among the dozen or so Allied pilots Iraq has shot down and captured, and Saddam Hussein has been using them as pawns, imprisoning them in strategic locations in hopes it will deter further Allied